The gangster shockingly saved the lady and his son. When he revealed the truth, the lady was shocked. About a week ago, in the bustling city of Newbridge, there lived a young mother named Sarah. She was kind-hearted, resilient, and fiercely protective of her 5-year-old son, Ethan. Life had not been easy for her since she became a single mom, but she faced every challenge with quiet determination. One evening, as twilight painted the sky in hues of orange and purple, Sarah found herself walking home through an unfamiliar part of town. Her car had broken down earlier that day, leaving her no choice but to take public transport, and now, this shortcut through dimly lit streets. The air felt heavy, like something ominous was lurking just out of sight. As she turned into a narrow alleyway, clutching Ethan's hand tightly, she noticed two men leaning against a graffiti-covered wall. They were laughing loudly, their voices echoing eerily in the silence. Something about them made her stomach churn. "Let's go back," she whispered to Ethan, tugging at his arm gently. But before they could retreat, one of the men stepped forward, blocking their path. Well, what do we have here?" he sneered, his eyes scanning Sarah up and down. "A pretty little thing like you shouldn't be wandering these streets alone." Sarah froze, her heart pounding in her chest. The other man joined his friend, trapping them between the two. Panic surged through her veins as she realized how vulnerable they were. Just when it seemed like things could not get worse, a deep voice cut through the tension. "Leave her alone." Everyone turned to see a tall figure emerging from the shadows. He wore a leather jacket, his face partially hidden beneath the brim of a hat. His presence commanded attention, dangerous yet oddly comforting. It was clear he wasn't someone to mess with. The first harasser scoffed. "Mind your own business, pal. This does not concern you." But the stranger did not flinch. Instead, he took a step closer, his piercing gaze locking onto the men. "It does now." For a moment, nobody moved. Then, without warning, chaos erupted. The two men lunged at the stranger, but he moved with surprising speed and precision, disarming them within seconds. One punch sent the first man sprawling onto the ground, while the second scrambled away, tripping over his own feet in terror. When the dust settled, the stranger stood tall, breathing heavily but unscathed. Sarah stared at him, unsure whether to feel grateful or terrified. Who was this man? He glanced at her briefly, his expression unreadable. "You okay?" She nodded mutely, still clutching Ethan close. "Thank you." Without another word, the stranger turned and disappeared into the night, leaving Sarah more confused than ever. Who was he, and why had he risked himself to save her? Over the next few days, Sarah could not shake the memory of that encounter. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the stranger's face, the intensity in his eyes, the way he carried himself. There was something hauntingly familiar about him, though she couldn't quite place it. Then came the first twist. While watching the local news one evening, Sarah froze mid-sip of her tea. On the screen was a mugshot of the very same man who had saved her, a notorious gangster named Victor Kane. Known for his violent past and ties to organized crime, Victor was wanted for countless offenses, including assault and racketeering. Her mind raced. Why would someone like him intervene on her behalf? Was it coincidence, or was there more to the story? Determined to find answers, Sarah began digging deeper. She visited libraries, scoured online forums, and even reached out to old acquaintances who might know something about Victor Kane. What she uncovered shocked her to her core. Years ago, before his life of crime, Victor had been married to a woman named Emily. They had a child together, a little boy named Daniel. Tragically, Emily and Daniel were killed in a hit-and-run accident caused by a drunk driver. The driver walked away with minimal consequences due to connections with powerful people in the city. Consumed by grief and rage, Victor spiraled into darkness, eventually becoming the man everyone feared today. But here is where the story takes its most unexpected turn. Sarah discovered that the drunk driver responsible for Emily and Daniel's deaths was none other than her own estranged father. Her world shattered. All this time, she thought her father's reckless behavior only affected their family. She never imagined it had destroyed someone else's life too. Guilt weighed heavily on her shoulders as she pieced everything together. Could Victor have known who she was when he saved her? Was his act of heroism a twisted form of revenge or redemption? Desperate for closure, Sarah decided to confront Victor. After weeks of searching, she finally tracked him down to a secluded warehouse on the outskirts of town. Her hands trembled as she knocked on the door, unsure if she'd live to see tomorrow. Victor answered, looking even more menacing up close. When he saw her, his eyes narrowed. "What are you doing here?" "I know," Sarah blurted out, tears streaming down her face. "I know about my father, and your family. I am so sorry." For a long moment, Victor said nothing. Then, to her astonishment, his hardened expression softened. He stepped aside, gesturing for her to come in. Inside, he revealed the truth. Yes, he had recognized her that night in the alley. Yes, he had considered letting those men harm her. It would have been poetic justice. But when he saw the fear in Ethan's eyes, it reminded him of his own son. In that instant, he chose to protect them instead. "I lost everything because of hatred," Victor admitted, his voice thick with emotion. "I would not let it consume me anymore." Moved by his words, Sarah extended an olive branch. Together, they vowed to break the cycle of pain and anger that had defined both their lives. Though their journey toward healing wouldn't be easy, they found solace in each other's company, an unlikely alliance forged in the crucible of tragedy. And so, the tale of a young mother saved by a gangster became not just a story of survival, but of forgiveness, redemption, and the power of human connection.